to a live look here on The Current as the White House in Washington, D.C., the federal government's national debt has surpassed a record high of $34 trillion. It's a number that was not projected to happen for another 5 years. During the pandemic, the government borrowed more money than expected in order to stabilize the economy and support a recovery. But that also came with a surge of inflation that pushed up interest rates. As a result, foreign buyers of U.S. debt, like China, Japan, and South Korea, have already cut down on their holdings of Treasury notes.
Global debt hits $97 trillion. That's an unfathomable number. We almost ran out of zeros on the graphic, and that is a 40% increase from 2019. So how much do we account for that, we being the United States of America? Well, actually, $33.9 trillion of that world debt, and it continues to rise, as you see right there on your screen. That is more than the next three highest countries combined.
Any reaction to the new data out of Treasury that the national debt has hit a record $34 trillion?
So yeah, if you look at that data, it's a trickle. There's a trickle down debt. If you think about it, Republican tax cuts are responsible about 90% of it. Of the increase in the debt as a share of the economy over the last 2 decades, excluding emergency spending. And so, as we know, you've heard me say this, you've heard the president speak to this, of what he has done to certainly lower the debt. He signed a legislation to lower the deficit by $1 trillion.
We have lots of deficits here. Interest rates are very important. The Treasury, of course, is going to have to wake up. Last I looked, $1.62 trillion deficit for the first 10 months of this fiscal year. Unbelievable. And interest on the debt this fiscal year, 10 months in, is already up 15.5%. 15.5%.
Right, when you think about the Inflation Reduction Act, that's going to lower prescription drug costs and cracking down on the wealth tax cheats that we've seen.
The Inflation Reduction Act is, at its core, about turning the climate crisis into an economic opportunity.
Madam Secretary, could you say a little bit more about how you believe the Inflation Reduction Act would impact inflation? How much do you believe that package would subtract from inflation, and over what time frame?
So I don't have numerical estimates for you, but I see that as making a very important contribution to lowering the cost of prescription drugs. The Inflation Reduction Act.
That is a made-up name.
And then his agenda would cut the deficit another $2.5 trillion by making the wealthy pay their fair share. So that is what the president has done. What we've seen on the other side is the complete opposite. What they've tried to do is continue to give a tax break to the millionaires and the billionaires. And that, what they have actually put forward, would add more than $3 trillion to the debt. So that's what that data shows us, and that's what we have done to try to make sure. The president has been very, very deliberate about this, to make sure that we do everything we can to certainly deal with the debt.
So here's what's happening. As you said, we do not have a change in the tax rates, but we do have a change in tax brackets. They're being lifted up. Why? Because of inflation. So for 2023, we got a 7.1% bump. In 2024, inflation has come down a little bit. It'll be 5.4%. How does that work? It means in order to move to the next bracket, which means you start to pay more taxes, your compensation or your taxable income would have to go up 5.4%.
It's a trickle. There's a trickle down debt. If you think about it,